Welcome back to another episode of the Solar Cleaners Network podcast, your go-to show for the professionals who power the future of clean energy. My name's Kim, founder of the Solar Cleaners Network and SCN Magazine. As someone who has spent a lot of years in the field cleaning commercial solar, I know how powerful it is to have the right tools available and the right strategies. And today we've got a special guest who actually needs no introduction in the world of pure water and glass cleaning anymore, Mr. Perry Tait, founder of Reach-iT and the man behind thefutureofcleaning.com. Hi, Perry.
Hey, how are you?
All good, all good. Nice to have you here.
Yes. Well, I think it'll be really fun to have a good old chat.
From window cleaning to solar cleaning, Perry has been innovating tools that save time, improve results, and push the industry forward. If you have ever heard of the Solar Rocker, well, we have the man behind the creation here with us. And today I want to dive deep into the world of solar panel cleaning together with our friend Perry and where we're heading to in the future. So Perry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yes, let's go.
Let's start with your story. How did Reach-iT come to life and how did it evolve from Windows to solar?
I'll give you the short version, otherwise it'll be an hour to sum up 15 years. But basically, I was a single dad in Sydney, and I was selling cleaning franchises. I sold over 250 cleaning franchises for VIP home services, and in the midst of that, some guy came to me and he said, "I've seen these poles being used in the UK." So I went to the UK and did the British Academy of Window Cleaning course with Craig Morlam. He's the original founder of the reverse osmosis, ultra pure water for window cleaning. And then from there, I looked at the difference. The UK's got very, very hard water with a lot of calcium, the White Cliffs of Dover, if you can imagine that, and all the water running over lime. And so they have very high TDS. And in Sydney, where I was, there was very low TDS, like 100, parts per million. So I started making some systems and importing a Danish pole XL, and then started, sort of supplying people from a storage unit. Just me and my 16-year-old boy at the time, Harrison. He was kind of, assembly, and then I got an opportunity to go to China in the solar thermal industry, working for an Austrian company called Ecotherm. So me and a Chinese Australian guy came to China to do that. And we won a big deal. It was like, $400,000 US, part $1 million total order. But it took a year and we were both paying our own way. And then I said, okay, you got to give me my 10% commission. And he said, no, I'll give you a salary. And I go, well, I'm not really the salary type of guy. So then I thought, okay, I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I got a 17-year-old boy and we're in China and we aren't going back losers, So I went back to Australia, sold everything I had. I had $6,000 in my little piggy bank and started the Reach-iT version 2, sort of manufacturing in China. We could only buy like 10 poles at a time back then. And so now we're a multi-million-dollar global company. Harrison's now the general manager running the show. I'm kind of semi-retired in beautiful Phuket, Thailand. And so the transition, and we focused on efficiency. Like we didn't have much money. If you look at the triangle of users of any product, there's a professional at the very top. There's a very small unit. Then there's the janitorial, and then there's the DIY, clean your own windows type market, And so I just said, well, we'll just focus on the professionals because we don't have enough money for janitorial to place big orders with us. We can't fund the order. So we just only ever focus on professional, and we only ever focus on efficiency because that, like, anybody can clean a window with anything, like newspaper and methylated spirits will clean a window. Like, it's not like special. What's special is how fast you can clean a window. And the same applies to solar panels, which you very much know with the robots and drones and stuff, is that the speed of cleaning determines your income, from. So we've only ever looked at how fast does a tool clean a window? Can we clean it faster? And we get a lot of feedback. I stay on live chat even now. And guys give us, can't it do this? Or could you do that? Or what if I had this? Or I found this material. Can we make a scrub out of it? And so we've run on the feedback from the users and this broke or that bent or whatever happens, like it's real life, different people use tools different ways and workers use them more roughly than owner operators. And so we kept refining and thinking about all the aspects that would make somebody be able to clean a window in basically 2 strokes, agitate on the upstroke, rinse on the downstroke, no second phase rinse, where you go back and rinse over and stuff like that. There's a lot of time lost And basically the tools for the window cleaning industry, for the water fed side hadn't been changed significantly in 50 years. And if you look at the squeegee rubber right now, it's a 95-year-old patent, and it's still the same. An Ed rubber is the same as it was 95 years ago. So the industry, was the poor man's industry. It was like $60 to $100 an hour, and roof guys and exterior cleaning, the other exterior cleaners getting 200, 250, 300, 350. So I just said, well, it must be in the tools, because the money's there. People who get their windows cleaned definitely got money. So that was the focus. So we made, and we continue to make the tool the way it should be, and then we sell it for the price that we need to sell it at for the people who can afford it. Shush, my dog barking at an Indian miner bird. Yeah, so then, of course, window cleaners see solar panels, and so we started looking at the technology that we'd developed for window cleaning and then how to apply that on a solar panel. And we were fortunate that the building that we were in China for the factory actually had a doctor from California. He's a Chinese guy, got brought back under the 1,000 Talent program into China, and he had a solar arrays on the roof with different measurements. He was measuring each solar array and changing this and changing that, and he was developing how to charge electric motorcycles for companies. So he'd go in, put solar panels on the roof and bring it back down and give them the little charge points, and they'd pay 20 cents per hour to charge their batteries and their bikes while they're at work. So that was kind of like where he was at. And so we were able to clean his solar panels and some other solar panels of some of his customers and get experience of the manual cleaning of small solar panel installations, and that's where we have a product called Deep Frame Rocker, which was for big commercial glass, and we looked at using that. And what we realized was that when you're cleaning glass, it's vertical, so you've got gravity pulling the water off the glass, so you kind of push it uphill, if I can say that, and then wait for it to come down, or hope it washes off. But when you've got a pitch, depending on where you are in the world, if you're close to the equator, your solar panels are flat, and the further away, the higher the pitch. But the water just doesn't rinse off. And if you think of the old gold panner, he sluices around and everything drops, the heavy stuff drops to the bottom. So by the time you've waited for the water to run off the panel, the dirt has got to the bottom and doesn't come off with gravity. So that's when we understood that we needed to put the majority of jets under the brush on the downside, whether if you're cleaning from above, they've got to be on the downside. If you're cleaning from below, they've got to be on the downside. So you're actually pulling the dirty water off the bottom of the panel. And by doing that, the amount of time saving is like incredible, because you're pulling it faster than gravity would have pulled it. You're basically creating a wave under the brush. I mean, I'll show you a brush. Can I?
Yeah, sure.
God, it's so big. This is a Solar Rocket Max, 26 inches, which is what, about 70 centimeters, So the idea is you get a brush, whether it's a 22 inch or the 26 inch, and then you use the brush such a way that the width of the brush is equal to more than half the width of the panel. So the super big commercial installations, if you're doing them manually, then you'd follow the left frame up and down, and then follow the right frame up and down, overlap in the middle. So you're two sets of actions on the panel. And so basically it was the deep frame rocker inverted, which became the solar rocker. And then the rocker bit is that the scrub pad, it's hybrid agitation. You've got some bristles there, and then this rocks, because the relationship, if this was a pole, well, let me get a pole. When you're scrubbing, the pole is going through a range of motion of up to 20 degrees. So if you've got a flat pad, like there are converted, mops, floor mops on the market for window cleaning. But as you go through that range of motion, the square pad is, lifting onto one corner and then going to the other corner. Only a fraction of the time is the whole pad on the glass, right? So the same applied with solar panels. Unless you're actually parallel to the solar panel with your pole, then there's a range of motion. So you need the rocker to stay flat on the glass. And that's all I'm going to say. So that's how we went from window cleaning.
Well, you already answered my next question. So
I get into the detail really quickly.
I noticed it. So glass or solar needs a totally different approach.
No, this is going to be too hard button already.
No, key takeaway from that 15-minute intro is solar panels need a totally different approach than glass.
Yeah, then windows. Yeah, because of the pitch.
Because of the pitch. You just show the brush. I know because I'm using it myself.
Yeah.
But that inner strip, there you have different kind of pads for it, right?
Yeah, and the most important one from a solar panel, this is only for solar panels pretty much, is the silicon bristle one. because silicon is the softest bristle that we can use, and it has, if you imagine, it doesn't scratch the glass. It doesn't, because you've got an ARC, like an anti-reflective coating, which is like a nano treatment that's on top of the glass on the outside top surface. And that increases the solar gain of a solar panel by 4%, right? But you can't damage it. And if you damage it, you end up with with a little hole, which is like a little black hole. And then one wafer is not behaving the same as the rest of the wafers. And then the panel ultimately burns out. And then if that panel burns out, the array burns out. So then the whole thing becomes a real disaster. So we went to the silicon bristle for the ARC, the blue tinted kind of panels is necessary. If it's just straight black and glass, then you can use all sorts of different agitation methods. But this silicon bristle's basically got a very high grab. It won't even, if you put it on glass dry, you can't move it. It's got a high surface friction coefficient.
Yeah, correct.
But with the water from the water-fed brush becomes the surfactant function, which allows it to slide, but it's very grippy, so it grabs everything, and then it's self-flushing because you don't want any of the grit to end up being grabbed and dragged. So that's why you need it to be bristles, not just a block of silicon. So how's that?
And they're
for short
different.
answer? Oh yeah,
You have different pads, right?
yeah, we have non-scratch pads. So if you're just doing normal glass, this is non-scratch pad. A lot of people don't understand that, like non-scratch pad and walnut pads and things like that, they're actually plastic. The walnut one is brown to make it look like a walnut, but it's actually plastic. And then they dip this plastic material, they dip it in a resin, and in the resin is a particle, which in this case is aluminum dioxide or aluminium dioxide, depending where you are in the world. And so that gives it its extra agitation, but it's so fine that it's not scratched. So it's very much like a toothpaste in a resin on a scrub. Yeah, is the same kind of thing. But if you're dealing with normal glass, we've got this one, which we call stainless steel mesh, which is actually the same material that you have in your kitchen called Brillo, is one of the brands, right? And it's rolled up in a little ball, rolled and rolled and rolled, and then you grab it and you can glass and porcelain with it, and it won't scratch because everything's running parallel to the glass like a blade, right? But this is great for bee poo, fly poo, fern spores, artillery fungus, paint overspray. It just cuts all of that stuff off. And we've got stainless steel. This is stainless steel wool, and all the fibers are running parallel. It's not like steel wool where it's all like a bird's nest. They're running parallel. So again, all of the metallic fibers are running parallel to the glass, so they're not going to scratch the glass. They're not, the sharp edges of a piece of stainless steel. The sides of the stainless steel, and so on. Yeah. Pretty much that.
I'm already going to bring it up because this is going to be a question that we get from the members. There will be some concerns with the steel wool, etc., to make scratch it.
Yep. Yeah.
But that's not going to happen.
No. And we've been doing this since 2019. So we're 6 years in with this technology, which was originally released under Window Weapon, where we were testing. And then we converted that to a radial rocker when we put the rocker on the block. And as long, it's still a responsibility, but if there's a nano treatment, it's going to scratch a nano treatment. So even for a window cleaner, if he's got tempered glass, he has to see whether there's a treatment on the outside of the glass or not, because some of the more aggressive scrubs. But if that bothers you, well, if you perceive that that's going to happen, then you go back to a non-scratch pad and you have more agitation strokes, if it's something difficult to remove. Right? And we've got green rubber as another one, which actually I got the idea from a solar farm because I watched in India, there were guys who'd made their own little brush out of this, and they were just showing how amazing it is. And it's the surface friction coefficient, which is really high on this one as well. So this is a really pop. This is it's like a floor mat material actually, but very soft. Yeah. And so when it's on the glass, as long as it's got water underneath it, it kind of grabs stuff off the glass. The green rubber is renowned for being able to take off the waxy remnant of bee poo, because you can scrape off bee poo, but there's always that little waxy bead underneath, So you need something that grabs it and takes it off like that. So this is your difference between something that's blading something off and something that's scratching something off, like what bristles do. They you run the bristles at 40 degrees to the glass. Not all brushes do, but that's the idea. And then it's kind of flicking the dirt off the glass. And then there's the grab ones, which basically have a high surface friction coefficient, and then they kind of grab off the glass. Yeah. So if you're dealing with like we've got videos of me in Dubai cleaning solar panels, the road that goes out to the Palm, whatever it is, the big beautiful Palm resort, and that was dust that kind of blew in on the wind, like sandy dust, but it's very clayish, right? And then it would cook in the 50 degrees Celsius, 120-degree days. So the dew would come at night, wet it, the cook in the day, and then the wind would blow and another layer would come on, and then that would get wet and bond and then cooked, so then your bristles don't cut it really easily on that. That's much better. Something's got a higher friction coefficient to grab on it.
Just someone asked me yesterday, he was cleaning an install, a lot of bird feces on the panels, and he could clean 95% of it. But there was just that little stain that left behind, and he was asking me, what brush do I need? So that we would
say bird poo or feces, it's a very technical word, that's caked on and cooked on, it's been there for 6 months or a year or something like that, then we would pretty much say go with this first, and see if that works. If that doesn't work, then go to the green rubber and just grab it off. Yeah.
Right. Lichen is also a pretty big one, especially where I'm from, Europe, Belgium, Northern Europe. What would you recommend for that?
Blade. So this is the Z-Force, which is a water-fed blade. So you connect it to your water-fed pole, or you can use it as a hand tool. And then, the plastic blades for making sure that you're not scratching. And not that metal blades are a problem, but on normal glass, but still plastic kind of gives a lot of peace of mind, And the beauty of
water-fed plastic blade, that's genius. Lubrication is what makes
and you can see you can see what's happening straight in front of your eyes. You don't have to wet it up and then blade in the soap and then squeegee it and then wet it and blade what you remember, because you can't see through the bubbles, so having water fed, all the debris is being removed as you go, so you can actually see everything that's there and just be very accurate with it. And then this can switch to, if you need reach, it just switches to a pole tool as simply as that, just a little press button there.
The screen is a little bit blurry. Okay, I see. That's some sort of quick connect.
Yeah, this is the radial handle, and these are the pole stem adapters, pole to handle adapters. So you can use it as a pole tool, and you can use it as a hand tool, depending on how close you are to the debris.
Nice.
The feces.
If I only knew that existed 5 years ago.
It didn't. It's a brand new product. We're in version 2 now. So if you see a blue one, the original ones are black, and then the latest version is blue, and the blue has the plastic blade. But anybody who bought black should write to us, because we're going to send them a blue one for free with their next order.
So we need to apologize. It's the funniest thing happened.
That's what
we've done this. We're going to keep this short. We've done this recording, and we were checking the recordings, and apparently some of the sound was missing. So we had to redo everything.
My delightful Apple Mac.
Yeah.
So we're picking up where we left off, but
it's
now time.
Oh yeah, tease us some more. The nice views from Thailand.
Yes.
So Perry, I think where we left off was the Z-Force.
Yes.
The special blade. It's a new product.
Yes. A water-fed blade.
Water-fed blade. I think a lot of members will be very curious about this product.
Yeah. And the context is that if you're going to clean manually, now I've got a long tail starting off in the background. That'll be interesting. But the context is that when you're cleaning solar panels manually, you have to set a rule how many times a guy cleans the panel with a brush. And that's what he does. He doesn't spot clean. And then if needed a spot clean, then somebody comes along afterwards with a backpack or whatever water source, and then can just spot clean, with a blade or with... We've got a little brush, 6-inch brush and an 8-inch brush for the French planes, but that would also be interesting to see if one of those would work from a spot clean point of view. And so that's where Z-Force, comes in. I don't know how well we can see it in the dark, but this is Z-Force, and Z-Force comes with either metal blades or, in this case, it's a plastic blade, so you don't damage the panel so much. And the beauty is that you can see the removal of the debris as you go, because the water is flushing in front of you, and you don't have the invisibility of bubbles like when you're window cleaning with a blade traditionally. So that's why we think this is an amazing product. So the idea is just be able to spot clean and get rid of, especially bat poo, bird poo, seagull droppings, and pelican droppings. And
I use these plastic blades a lot for lichen removal.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So and then this is a 4-inch blade, and we can make a 6 or a 10, whatever. But from a window cleaning perspective, we tried a 6 a 6-inch blade, and we found that it was difficult to get right. Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah.
Now he'll be gone soon.
All good. All good.
These are long tails here are wooden boats, and they put a car engine and then a great big long shaft, which is on a pivot, and then they drop the propeller into the water as they need it. So they can be in 10 inches of water and still be using the blade if they want to. It's really, really amazing. So so Z-Force is basically a water-fed blade, and it can be used, as a unlikely in solar panel cleaning, but used as a pole tool. There you go. How's that in the dark?
Are you planning to make them any bigger?
Not planning to from the window cleaning side, but if we had a few guys from the network who gave it a go and said, yeah, I think I could benefit from a 6-inch or a 10-inch, we can do that. Like, we can use 3D printing in the first instances, and they're a little bit brittle. It's easy for us to put replacement parts in and stuff like that. So it's not as strong as this one is, which is a molded product now, but we brought it out originally as a 3D product just to find out where it's strong and where it's weak and all that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah,
great product. Looking forward to see some feedback and using it myself.
Yeah,
like in our region or in Northern Europe. Oh, it's a big issue.
Right. So in Australia, the thing which we had as the disaster was bat poo, and because they get on flight paths, bees get in flight paths, birds have flight paths, and you put solar panels under a flight path and you're going to get a dump.
Right. Interesting. And in the US, there's also a lot of paint overspray. It's not something that we see here because we don't spray paint houses, but it's quite common in the US, and we see a lot of paint overspray on panels. So it's something the guys can use as well.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously the plastic blade is, more gentle on the glass and less, the angles don't have to be so perfect, compared to metal blades, but we've got metal blades and a slider for the metal blade as well. Guys who like metal blades.
We don't really recommend using metal blades for solar. Although everybody claims they don't make scratches, but I dare to shave your beard on a 9-meter pole with a razor blade at the end.
That's the issue.
If I don't make any scratches,
The issue is that instead of using, bicep, forearm, wrist control, you're using bicep, tricep, trapezoid, body mass, and the amount of force. And then at different angles, if you take the blade off the angle, you got the corner on the glass, and then you're playing a different game at that point. Yeah.
Right. Since there's already a week in between this recording and the previous one, I don't recall.
We've no idea what we've already said.
Exactly. I do have a list of questions in front of me, but excuse me if I've already asked this.
Yeah, and if I answered the same answer twice.
One of the questions was for somebody starting out, what should they prioritize first when it comes to buying equipment, investing in equipment, making sure that over-investing? So
basically, for the way I look at it is there's 3 parts to any cleaning system. There's the actual tool that's cleaning, and that's your brush or your blade or your drone or your auto, your cleano, whatever he is.
Rotating brushes.
Yeah. All those. That's the tool that's on the glass. So that should be the way you spend your money for the greatest efficiency, because the issue is not can I clean glass? The issue is how fast can I clean glass? And so getting the tool kit right. So any tradesman normally has got a whole lot of tools to maximize his efficiency, and window cleaners are basically trained to not have a whole lot of tools. They kind of incline towards a universal tool, and I'm not a big fan of that. I'm very much into the right tool for the right task. So whatever's on the glass, that's your biggest investment and should be for efficiency. Don't save money on a cheap tool that takes you longer, because the most expensive part of cleaning windows is actually the labor, not the tool. So you get a more expensive tool that cleans faster is going to give you a greater dividend over time. And then the next step is, how do you put that tool on the glass? So the pole is juxtaposed against the ladder. If you think about it, it enables a person to get the tool on the glass further away than what they can reach with their natural reach. So then when you look at the pole should be rigid, because it's a drive shaft. You're going to go like this, and that's your drive shaft action. And then if it has a swivel function, then it's an axle. So a bent drive shaft or a floppy drive shaft or a bent axle or a floppy axle is not going to give you efficiency. You're going to lose your calories in heat as the pole flexes. So it's really important for to maximize, spend as much as you can on the pole based on the composition of the pole. High modulus or ultra high modulus carbon fiber is ultra high modulus carbon fiber is a marketing name for 46T is the technical stuff that we buy, and that's the most rigid, highest modulus is the technical term carbon fiber that we can buy as civilians, without going into the military grades, So the pole, and then the pure water doesn't give you any efficiency. So I'm not pre-committed to pure water. There's other ways of dealing with water beads so that they don't spot. One of them is like using a floor mop, and just pulling the water off the glass. You're going to leave a little bit of water on the glass, but the beads are tiny, and those beads won't, when they dry, they won't leave spots. So if you can, another way would be to put a surfactant into the water, so that again the water beads can't form with the surface tension of natural water is really strong, so therefore it can hold a bigger bead. But if you put a surfactant in the water, then it won't be able to bead as big, and then you'll get less spot. And there's a line, solar panel cleaning doesn't need to be as spot free as residential window cleaning. So you can often use tap water in a lot of places, and the other way you can just use RO without DI, so that you're taking 90, 95, 97% of the minerals out using water pressure. But the problem with RO is that 50% of your water goes to waste. And I think, you've experienced that. You bring 50,000 litres onto a site, I think you were telling me, and 25,000 litres goes to waste. Yeah. So that's a cost that somebody's got to take into consideration if they're going to use RO. And then you start thinking, okay, well, is there another way that I can do it without having to have pure water? Like, is there an acceptable level of clean? Because anybody who's a project manager or property manager understands that the moment you leave a work site, the glass starts getting dirty again. So it's a contrast that you're looking for in solar panel cleaning. We're looking for a solar gain. So it's the contrast of, what does dirty cost us in loss of solar gain? What does clean give us in solar gain? And then that contrast is what they're buying, not spot free. Yeah. So that's the commercial attitude towards clean glass, and of course a solar panel with a pitch is going to get dirty faster than a vertical window under an eave, for example.
Right.
I have long answers for your short questions,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how it is in Thailand, but we have some very hot water. So
right. And what's it hard with? It's hard with calcium.
Calcium.
Yeah. If it's hard with calcium, then look, if you could fill your tanks with RO and use, I know some pressure washer guys, they'll use the RO and then the wastewater they'll put into a secondary tank, and then they'll use that for their pressure washing. You can't keep filtering water and putting the waste back into your tank. That doesn't work. I've seen some guys show me that. That's not true. You can't do it. So the question is, can you use, what's the cost of water and the cost of getting it to site? And then, that's what we talked about. I don't know if we've covered it here. I doubt it. It was late in that podcast that we talked about, using dehumidifiers on site and filling, the totes, the 250-gallon, 1,000-liter totes, and having them on site and actually dehumidifying the air with using the solar power from the solar panels and just dehumidifying the air and capturing the water from the dehumidification process and using that as your pure water. And that would be pure water. That would have very little minerals in.
Yeah. Well, I've cleaned myself with RO for the past 7 years, but we were changing towards using the water softening agents from Chemitech. We had good results with it, especially in utility where you need a large volume of water.
Right.
In most cases, you need to bring that water on site.
Yes.
By an external third-party company.
Yes.
If there's nothing available on site, so using RO, like you said, is quite costly. Yeah.
It's not a straightforward, you should use RO and then somebody should use RO, right? It just, there's some maths to be done, money maths. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's where I think, you get a floor mop, and just a guy comes along, if you've got hard water, so it's going to spot in an unacceptable way, then you just have one more guy just pulling it off, one stroke per panel, have the floor blade, it's kind of like, the ones I mean, the rubbery fat, like about 2 centimeter thick. Yeah. And then just pull the water off the panel. That'll work. And see, depending on where guys are in the world, the pitch of the panel, if you're on the equator, the pitch will be flat, right? So then the water won't run off anyway. So then you can't rinse that off, so then you have to pull the water off. So then as the pitch rises, then the gravity will pull the water off faster. But that's what everybody is going to be different wherever they are located in the world. And, how hard is the water and like that. And most guys wouldn't understand, when you talk about softening, normally if you have a water softener, it's going to replace the calcium with sodium. But sodium, if you look at the periodic table, calcium, sodium, lithium, magnesium, they all dry white, and the chalks and the salts. So putting salt in just makes it easier for the RO, but it doesn't change the TDS, or the total dissolved solids, in the water. It's just changing it from a calcium to a sodium so that it won't calcify.
Yep.
Salt doesn't calcify, but calcium does, obviously.
Good. Because you're working in the field as well. You do have a cleaning business yourself?
No, we're just in the processes of starting one here. So we're gonna the first one will be glass washing, and then the second one will be solar panel cleaning. So maybe we'll start that in maybe first of 2026. I think, by the time I get everything done. I had a meeting today with a guy who's got 80% of the hotels here. He's got the contact for, so just one guy. So that's going to be pretty interesting. We'll set up some demo days and invite all the hoteliers in and do some demos for them. But that's nice. More in glass washing. But I'm pretty keen to get into the solar panel cleaning as well. But when I was in China, like, we've still got our factory there, but the building that we were in before the building we're in now had a super doctor of solar. He was in America for 30 years, and he got reclaimed to China. He's Chinese, and he got reclaimed to China under the 1,000 talent program, which is a bit like what America ran as a B-42 or something like that. I can't remember the program, but after World War II, they brought in all the guys from Germany, and
German.
They started the United Nations and NASA, and these guys, some of the best scientists in the world. So that was a visa, attraction program where they can live in America. So anyway, but this guy, he had solar panels on the top of our roof, and one of the tenants of the property was a sign maker where they make the illuminated signs. And so they were using CNC to make the signs, but then the waste product was going up onto the roof. And so this really fine plastics were landing all over the solar panels. But because each solar panel had a different array, and he was measuring, different results, we were able to measure the solar gain, in the same period of time as we cleaned the array, because he had the data program. And then his business was about putting solar on top of commercial roofs and then channeling that electricity back down into charge points for electric scooters and electric cars, which all scooters in China are electric. And then, maybe 40% of the cars are electric. So he would sell that to a company like that. So, but it was very interesting, and we got a lot of data from him working with him, and also we had our solar rocker where we were testing it and working out, what's the fastest way to get, because the dirty water is what you're trying to, first you got to disturb the dirt into suspension. It doesn't go into solution, but just into suspension. And then you got to get that dirty water off the glass as fast as possible. And that's where we worked out that it's faster to pull the water off the glass than it is to push shit uphill, kind of thing. That's what window cleaners do. We push it uphill and then wait for the gravity to pull it off, But with solar panel cleaning, you can just have most of the jets under the brush, and then you pull it down faster than gravity would have that water roll down the panel. And then that turbulates and keeps that dirt in suspension, and then you pull it off the bottom of the panel. And if you're cleaning from above the panel, we have different goosenecks, without disturbing my light too much,
Yeah, it's getting quite dark.
It's getting really dark. I kind of made a mess of this, but anyway, we'll keep going. But basically, there's one gooseneck system, will be from above the panel, and the other gooseneck system will be from below the panel, depending on which orientation you're cleaning from. And they only fit Reach-iT poles at this point, so we're working on making them suitable for other poles.
I was actually trying to ask you because I thought you were in the field.
Yeah.
Your opinion on what makes solar cleaning, window cleaning, or whatever exterior cleaning business successful, and why others are barely scraping by.
I was in the field. I was a window cleaner. So, and I used to sell cleaning franchises. So I've sold 250 cleaning franchises for VIP home services in Australia. And it's very much in a residential sense as compared to solar farms. Solar farms is just time on glass. So then it's the efficiency of not letting guys make a decision that they need to scrub a panel more than the prescribed number of times, whether it's twice or 3 times, whatever, depending on what's on the glass at the time, and what brush and what scrub you put on on the brush if you're using manual and using solar rocker. So, if this is a 26-inch solar rocker, and then the scrub, it's like hybrid agitation. It's got the little bristles, one row of bristles, mostly for breaking the surface tension of the glass, so that it doesn't, so that it behaves in a hydrophilic way, right? It cascades. But the real agitation is happening with this, and these are different scrubs. This is a non-scratch scrub, but these are all attached with Velcro, and then we can change that scrub out depending on what's on the glass and what type of glass, whether it's got an ARC treating or not. And then we can go to, if it's got an ARC treating, then we've got silicon. It's really dark. It's hilarious. But these are silicon bristles, so they've got very high friction coefficient. Without water, they won't even move on glass. They'll just stick to the glass. But with water as a surfactant, then they'll kind of run across the glass and grab. But because they're bristles,
Actually tried to clean without water. Impossible.
Impossible. Won't move an inch. And then, and because they're bristles, they self-flush, which is the other part that you want to get the debris into suspension, and then you want your brush to flush, right? You can't use microfiber because it's a grab and hold. Microfiber is designed to grab and hold. So we've got microfiber if somebody's got solar panels right next to a highway, or something like that, or next to a factory that's got hydrocarbons coming out of the exhausts and stuff like that, then if you've got hydrocarbons, then nothing will move hydrocarbons. You have to use a detergent, and that's where you'd go to microfiber to hold the detergent for you, or you put detergent in your water, which is probably easier for bigger jobs, So, and then we've got another one. Let me see what I can find here. We've got, this one is green rubber. It's got a high friction coefficient, so it's really, really popular. A lot of guys find this their favorite one for cleaning solar panels. That's kind of like the floor mat material, actually.
What would that green rubber? Because that's not steel, right? That's some kind of.
No, it's not steel. It's if you imagine the soft floor mats when you're going to a trade show or something like that, or you go into an industrial premises and they want to protect the people they stand all day, and you want to just give them a little bit more, a little bit less impact, each time they take a step, and standing on so it just basically puts a suspension underneath their feet, but the function that it has is just grab. It's not as sticky as the silicon bristles, but it will take off like bee poo and stuff like that, and the little wax mark underneath. But then you look at this one. This is stainless steel. We call it stainless steel mesh, but it's actually the same material that's used in Brillo pads. Do you call them Brillo pads when they roll it up and you've got it in your kitchen sink and you scrub your glasses and all, and porcelain and everything? So again, this is known not to scratch glass, and all of those little blades are running parallel to the glass. So that's its function, is parallel to the glass and scraping stuff off. So that's where stuff is cooked on, and you want to get underneath it and get it off. Yeah.
I think I'm just giving some feedback because I already expect that a lot of members are going to be very hesitant of using that type
They're
of.
terrified of it. Terrified. But we've been doing this since 2000. Our first metal on glass product was 2016 called Window Weapon. And then Radial Rocker came out 2019, 2020, something like that. We just know that we know if you've got metal running parallel to glass, it's not going to scratch. Steel wool doesn't have everything running parallel to the glass. It's got little ends, and it's the ends that could leave, a mark. But as a rule, you can go to ChatGPT and just go, can this scratch glass? Which is the harder material is what you're talking about, So, and it's easy enough to test. We put a little tag on it and say, look, just test it on the glass. Put 3 fingers and push hard and scratch 10 times. That's probably 100 times the pressure that you'd have using the brush because it's pounds per square inch.
Be careful with anti-reflective coating then. Well, that opens another can of worms for our members. When do you know there's ARC on a solar panel and when not?
Well, when you see white, you're seeing a reflection of light, which is your dirt and dust, right? So that's your solar gain that's being bounced back at your eyes, but it's not, your eyes are just seeing that angle, but it's being bounced everywhere. So, that's why you're cleaning the solar panel is to see black, right? And then the solar energy will go to the wafer, right, and be absorbed because black absorbs light, white reflects light. Yeah. So that's the science behind why you want to clean the panel and what color you see. Yeah. And blue, I think the logic of the blue light has a longer sine curve, so it travels further. It's something about that, which is what I'm guessing is what the ARC treatment is doing is converting or increasing the amount of blue light, maybe, or maybe it's filtering the blue light. I don't know. That'd be a good question.
What do you think is the most underrated trend in our industry right now? Or maybe put it in a different perspective. What's the biggest trend in the industry right now?
You can't get a machine in, like your tractors. And they haven't left enough room between the panels because they maximize the number of panels on the land mass. And then you get pushed back to manual, and then you've got to get a custom pole, because if you, let's say you use a 25-foot pole and then you're tapping the panel behind you, so maybe it needs to be a 15-foot pole or a 13-foot pole for ideal. It's got to reach at its full reach. It's got to reach the top of the panel, but when it comes to the bottom, it can't hit the panel behind you, kind of thing. And that's where somebody can come to us and say, look, we're going to get a bunch of 22-inch or 26-inch solar rockers, but we need, custom poles, and we can cut down poles to make them, the ideal lengths.
Any plans on making rotary brushes in the near future, perhaps?
I have had 3 attempts at a rotary brush. I refuse to copy. If I can't improve, I don't do it, and so we've had 3 attempts at it. Pardon me. Cut this out. I'll ask AI to do that. No, I never sneezed in the end. So the thing that worries me about the rolling brushes and the spinning brushes like this is the bristle they put on it is like 1 millimeter thick. It's a really heavy duty brush, and they're slow. They're slow. So the question is, can you make it faster? How do you move it across the panel, in an orderly way and get it to jump over the frames without losing time? And then, if you're wanting to push it up a panel, then how do you stop it from going over the top of the panel? So we've played with we've got a sensor that senses the top edge of the panel and turns off the power to the brush and stuff like that. So we might have another look at it next year. We've got too many new projects on at the moment, so it's in the back burner, that one. But it would be amazing if guys who use the rolling brushes, whichever way they are rolling, and had ideas, because that's where we get our ideas from, is actually from users, saying, if it could turn off at the top, that stops us from throwing it over the top and then having to lift it up. And then you're really testing your pole's rigidity when you've got like one of those great big heavy rollers has fallen off the top of the panel. And then to avoid it falling off the top of the panel, you take it really slowly at the top of the panel, and then you're slowing down the worker, because he's being careful. So there's that. And then,
it's
how much
tricky
water
with one of the most known German brands when it gets caught behind the panel.
A little bit more balanced, because, any weight, any turn, and it starts wanting to run that way, and then you've got to head it the other way. And, it looks glorious in Instagram, but they're not so glorious when you're using them.
The tip that I can give you already is I don't see the German brands, which are the most popular ones at the moment. They don't cause damage, but when I see the Chinese brushes, those are really stiff bristles. There's a lot of speed going on.
Yeah, a lot of speed.
And not enough water flow, so not enough rinsing, and then you create some sort of buffing on, and then you damage.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they definitely shouldn't be used on coating. 100%. You have to use something soft. When I first moved to China, I moved with a company called Ecotherm. That Ecotherm's world leader in solar thermal, the heating of water, right, with solar gain. It's very interesting because you can get 95% solar gain heating water from 0 to 10 degrees. They don't stay at 24% for 10 years. So don't underestimate, if you see solar thermal, the value of cleaning solar thermal panels.
I do expect some feedback from our members about the pads that go inside the solar rocker. Aren't they too aggressive for a solar panel?
I got it. All right. So firstly, we have to decide, has the solar panel got ARC, the anti-reflective coating? You tell it's got ARC if it's got a blue tinge. If it looks black when it's clean, it's clear glass going through to a black wafer. If you can see it gray or white, that's the reflection of your solar gain coming back at you from dust and dirt on the panel. Yeah.
Right.
If it has a blue tinge, then you need to use something super, super soft, right? You can't use the great big thick, 1 millimeter, 1/24 of an inch type bristles, right? Because it's a nano coating that's on the panel. And if you wear it thin, you'll create effectively we'll call it a hot spot. It's probably a cold spot, but it'll put the wafer out of balance with the other wafers, and then that puts the panel out of balance with the other panels, and that puts the array out. So it's very important not to leave holes in your clean, kind of thing. So this is silicon bristle. Silicon is a great grab agitator. So you could have different agitators. Some will scrape like a blade. They'll get underneath something, and other things will kind of scratch, like bristles kind of scratch and flick. They don't get under, and they don't grab, right? They're just the tips of the bristles do the work. But silicon is super sticky. If you put this on glass and you try and move it without water underneath it or underneath it, it won't move a millimeter. Yeah, it's stuck there. So it needs the water underneath. That's what gives you your movement on the glass, the surfactant. And then it's bristles so that it's self-flushing. If you look at something like microfiber, which you'd think is super soft, the problem with microfiber, it's a catch and grab. It's also a grab, but it's a catch and hold grab agitator. It's not designed to flush, right? So you're meant to put it in the washing machine and wash all the stuff out of it. So if you've got something which is sharper than glass, like sand, grains of sand or something like that, they're going to hold in the microfiber. So you've got to use something that's going to flush, and that's why we use bristles, not blocks of silicon. So that's the main one that we make it. We make it by hand for the solar rocker. Another grab type of agitator is the green rubber, which is basically like a very soft version of the floor matting. If you see guys in factories, then they'll have this woven bird's nested rubber finish, and it's quite soft. So it also has a lot of grab, doesn't have as much flush, right? A little bit of flush, and it's very effective as a grab, like bee poo. It'll get not only the bee poo off, but also the waxy stain under the bee poo. Not that that's so important for solar panels, but it gives you an idea.
Can that be used on anti-reflective coating? That one?
I wouldn't. I just don't know that I would, because what worries me about it is the flushing of, because if you leave sand scratches in a treatment, then basically you're leaving a groove, right? And then you think about light is coming down like this, and then it hits the side of the groove and bounces off. So you get refraction, right? So scratches are basically equivalent to permanent dirt, on the panel, because it's bouncing the solar gain light that you're looking to go through to the wafer. It's bouncing it off the surface of the panel. So, before we had silicon, that was the one. And certainly on non-ARC panels, it's a good scrub. It's very popular as a scrub. We have another one which is similar to that called Tomcat, which is better than this at BPOO on its own, which is like we developed it mostly. Well, we developed on feedback from the Perth, Australia market, for both Windows and solar. And it's got a lot of stickiness to it. We've got a new one coming out called Silver Scrubber, which is kind of like a really aggressive plastic scraper, like plastic sharp bristles, but that's coming. It's not available yet. We're launching it in Australia next week, but only for Australia at this point. This one is orange, but it's the same as a white non-scratch pad. So again, it's a bird nested kind of woven plastic, right? And what most people probably don't realize about non-scratch pad is that the plastic is dipped in a resin, and then the resin is saturated with particles like aluminum dioxide, which is like what's in toothpaste. So it's very, very fine. You can polish your glasses with it, kind of thing. So it's got that on the white non-scratch pad. So white non-scratch pads work better when they're newish compared to when they're oldish, because the resin wears off and that aggressive, particle is not there. We've got another one called carborundum, which is silicon dioxide, which is more like emery paper. I mean, it would scratch any non-glass surface, any nano treatment, but it doesn't scratch glass. So the go-to would be this scrub, for all window cleaners and solar panel cleaners, just wanting a scrub that's got a reasonable amount of agitation without it being hard on the glass. And then we've got like Magic Eraser. Magic Eraser's amazing at taking some things off. Again, it's a grab type agitator, and Magic Eraser will take off silicons and super difficult things, not with the same number of strokes. I mean, it definitely takes more strokes, but when you need to take something off glass, you need something that takes that thing off glass, and nothing takes silicon off except Magic Eraser. Then you get into the more aggressive ones, which is like this one, which we call stainless steel mesh or the cheese grater. And this is the same material that you'll find in your kitchen, where you can grab, they're rolled up in curled up in little balls. and you scrub your porcelain, you scrub your glasses with it. When you need something a bit more aggressive, like Brillo is the sort of the common brand name in the States and Australia, I think. And so we buy this, 1,000-meter rolls with the material cut to size for us so that we can stitch it in. And then whilst it's a steel, all of the steel is exposed to the glass parallel to the glass. So it's working like a blade. It's cutting underneath whatever's on the glass. So whether it's artillery fungus, bee poo, again, but won't take the waxy bit off, fly poo, paint overspray, anything that's just caked on and kind of chunky, then you can get underneath it and it'll flick off and it'll self-flush. Yeah.
Doesn't the mesh get saturated a lot with the dirt in the soil?
No, because if you look at it, you can see straight through it. So you see there. So it's not holding anything at all. It's not like stainless steel. It's not like steel wool. We do have steel wool. And this steel wool is not the same. If you look at it, I think you could probably see all the fibers are pretty much running in the lateral direction, so that the fibers are running parallel to the glass, and then basically it's scraping stuff. So this is when you've got something which is really, really difficult, right? And it's got to be glass. It can't be anything other than glass for sure, right? Because it is.
Stay away from anti-reflective coatings with this.
Yes, stay away from anti-reflective coating. This will take that off for sure. It'll be lovely black panel after that, and that's pretty much all that's in my bag. Yeah.
Well, that gets away of the confusion that I already noticed that a lot of members were asking these questions.
Yeah, we get it a lot.
What about these pads? Because they're way too aggressive.
We've been doing this since 2016. We brought out Window Weapon or Bronze Brush. Bronze Brush we brought out first, then Window Weapon, which we had some different scrubs. Maybe 2019 was Window Weapon, 2018, 19, and then 2020 was Radial Rocker. And then Radial Rocker became Solar Rocker, from the solar panel perspective, but using all the same technology in this aspect, that hybrid, cleaning, and it just doesn't scratch glass. But if we put a little waiver on there, say, look, if you're not quite sure, put 3 fingers onto the scrub it in a corner, and just see if you hold your light and run your light like this and see if you can see any refraction, But, 3 fingers and the pressure that you put on with 3 fingers is a fraction of, it's a multiplier of probably 100 times the pressure that you'd be able to put on with, a 22-inch brush. Just to think pounds per square inch. Yeah.
Well, great. Think we're going to finally wrap this one up.
Yep.
So for those who say, hey, well, now it's light and it was dark just 5 minutes ago. Well, we're actually doing this in 3-4 takes already.
Yeah.
Because of technical issues. But hey, okay, we managed to do it. Maybe one last question, Perry. What are you looking forward to the most when it comes to new developments in the industry? We see a lot of robotics. We see drones coming up quite a lot. There's a lot of AI in the industry now. Certain things you're looking forward to the most personally?
I'm kind of fixated on efficiency. Like that's my little piece of the pie. We're opening a window cleaning company here in Phuket, Thailand. Sometime it'll probably open next year. It'll be open next year for sure. And then we're going to add on to that solar panel cleaning. So we'll be able to get, the tools on the glass ourselves. Again, we used to be able to do that. I can't do that since I've been here. And what we like very much is when we get feedback from a user or it doesn't even have to be a customer, but they go like, my life would be more efficient if I had this, and we get a buzz out of that. If we can see how the efficiency would work, then we put our R&D team into action. Sometimes we can do it in weeks, and sometimes it's years. For us, like this is, a super popular brush radial light, and this took us, I think, 2 years to work out how to bend these bristles around in a tight corner. It took 3 years to work out how to tighten them up for ultralight, which is an even tighter circle. So, sometimes it's you can make one in a DIY sense, but making it so that it's a mass production product that can be identical in every sense, that's kind of the mark when you're allowed to put it to market and say, here it is. So yeah, like I get the buzz out of people saying, can you do this? And then we work out how to do it and deliver it to the market as a better tool.
So for everybody listening or watching, send Perry a message if you have ideas or feedback.
Yeah.
And if you need some equipment, Future of Cleaning, not the Future of Cleaning, but futureofcleaning.com.
Yes, that's us. You can find it all there. Yeah.
Right. If you have questions, comments, please put them down below the YouTube video or on Facebook. Yeah, Perry, thank you a lot for taking 3 times some time out of your day.
Yeah. No, but it's been really good. And I think it's a good questions, great network. I was talking to Matthew this morning, and he said it's, of all the networks that he's worked in, he said the Solar Cleaners Network is the friendliest, the most proactive, the most direct, yes, we can do it, no, we can't. You've got a great network that you've built. It's well filtered. It doesn't have the bad eggs in it, the troublemakers.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. We filter those.
Yeah.
So
All right.
and I think to your credit, you've attracted some of the leaders of the industry. When these are the guys who have built large businesses focusing on their business, and putting time back into a community is not time into your own business. It's a give back, pass it forward type attitude. And guys that want to do that have to have a place where they feel it's worth doing that. And you've created the environment for that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Something that I struggled with when I started, getting feedback from the people that were already in the industry longer time than me. Because there's a lot of, how do I put this? People want to keep some stuff for themselves, and a lot of that information that we have as the OGs of the industry is really valuable for the younger guys that are starting.
Yeah. Like, it costs a lot of money to get it, and then it's easy to pass on to the next guy, and he gets the chance to leapfrog a whole lot of experiences that would have set him back, if he listens carefully. You can't avoid every mistake, but you can certainly recognize that you got told about a mistake after you made it and go, that's what he was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how we learn.
Yeah, that's how we learn.
Right, Perry, again,
wonderful.
Thank you a lot for your time.
No,
And
my
we
pleasure.
should do this again. Maybe
with
some technology then.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things to talk about for sure. And you could probably run 3-way as well, can you, in Riverside?
I can have as many guests as I want.
There you go. Yeah, so you could do a panel, so that it's kind of, where you're looking at the different aspects, where you go, okay, well, there goes a manufacturer, there goes the safety guy like Mike Draper or something, and there goes, somebody from marketing or something, and then, have the banter between them, because we make all of our tools to be seen by a customer, because our customers, our users make shitloads of money, more than a lawyer sometimes, per hour. And then somebody goes hang on, I don't pay my lawyer that much, and then they've got to show them, well, I use products like this, and they don't cost nothing, right? These are really, really expensive products, and tools. So, sometimes having beautiful tools, makes a big difference when you go to just calm the customer down while you're getting rich.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Good. Pretty sure we're going to do this again very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.